Ethical Perspectives on the News is produced by the Interreligious Council of Lynn County, which is solely responsible for its content. The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of KCRG TV9.
Good morning. Welcome to Ethical Perspectives in the News. My name is Pete Welch, and I'm the moderator in this morning's program. Today, we'd like to talk about a topic about whether or not there's added value to obtaining a college education, either a 2- or a 4-year degree. With us this morning first is Dave McInally, who's the president of Coe College right here in Cedar Rapids. Good morning, Dave.
Morning, Pete.
And welcome to Cedar Rapids now that you've been here a year and a half.
Thank you.
Okay. Also with us is Brad Loeffler, who is with the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City Building Trades, and he's the president of the, is it the Building Trade Council, Pat?
Cedar Rapids, Iowa City Building Trades Council.
Okay, good morning, Pat.
Good morning.
And finally, this morning we have Bob Sessions, who's a retired philosophy professor and a ethical perspectives moderator emeritus. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Pete. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, good. Anyway, one of the things that we all grew up and our parents would say, you need to get a college education and you need this to get ahead. And, you know, I think that was a pretty good adage in the World War II veterans and the post-World War II era when we had our first big economic surge. But like anything else, the environments have changed, the assumptions have changed, the people have changed, and our values. You know, and you know, hopefully this morning's topic we can discuss, do some of those same assumptions back then, are they still good? Do they apply? And if there's been changes, what have the changes been? Bob, what do you think? You've been a boomer. Would you consider yourself a boomer? Like
I'm an early
do?
boomer.
Early boomer.
Early boomer, yes. Well, that's a very interesting topic. Steven Pinker, who is a social psychologist at Harvard University, just came out with a book. And I know that there are a lot of reasons why a lot of young people should not go to college, or at least not a 4-year college or liberal arts college. And we can talk about that, but Pinker makes a contrary point. He says that while we talk about inequality in our country between the upper 1% and the rest of us, Pinker's focus is on the middle class. And he said there are divergent lines with the middle class. There's a group of people who are going like this, okay, and a group of people who are doing the opposite curve, all part of this large middle class. And the people who are doing the upper are people that have college degrees, and people doing the lower are people who don't. And it isn't just economic that he's talking about. He says that people's life expectancies, the quality of their lives, their health, their cultural experiences, their social lives are determined to a great extent by that divergence. And that to me points to the value of higher education. And it's not so much economic, although that's part of it, but it's that it gives a person a richer life. A person is much more aware of the realities of life because you've hopefully had a good education. You know the truths about medicine, and so you take better care of yourself and eat better and so on. You know the need that we have for rest and for sociality if you want happiness and for family. And of course there are a lot of reasons why people on that lower trajectory are having more and more difficulties, and much of it is economic. But he's saying that much of it has to do with what happens in college or not.
Dave, as the head of a college, you're certainly you have a vested interest here.
I do.
What do you think, and what's your approach at Coe?
And although my professional life and our mission at Coe is devoted to encouraging students to seek higher education, I don't think it's for everyone. But I think the circumstances that you've just described, Bob, are real for all sorts of reasons. And it's interesting that you led off the question, Pete, with an observation about what parents want for their kids. And I happened to be in a situation where that was not expected. No one in my family had been to college. I'd only had one family member ever finish high school. And the I went to an inner city school district where it was not expected that we go to college. I happened to have a scholarship to the local university. So without understanding what the true benefit might be of higher education, it opened up all sorts of possibilities for me to, and much to my surprise, ultimately led to a career in higher education.
Would I say that you joined the rat race without the benefit of knowing there was cheese to be had at the end?
That's a great way of putting it. And so that did help instill in me a belief that for students who wish to do it and for whom it is a good fit, and that's not true for everyone, that it can open up all sorts of possibilities, and there are quite a few statistics on earning potential. The most recent I saw from the Pew Foundation defined the difference as about $700,000 a year in today's dollars. Not a year, I'm sorry, over a career, that college benefit can provide. But of course, those are averages. They're not necessarily right for every single person. And at CO, we're just looking for 400 of the right students per year. Not every single student has to do that. But of course, many colleges and universities are offering different sorts of programs I think it's most effective when it meets the needs of the student, what their career aspirations are. Many of the other benefits, the lifestyle benefits, the aesthetic benefits, you tend not to appreciate those until after you've experienced them. At the early stage, I think most people are looking at the return on the investment that they have to make in time and dollars to attend college.
Okay. Now, one of the things that is definitely changed, and I think we can all kind of agree, is that our society and in America, we're maybe a little bit less of a heavy industrialized than we were years ago, but yet there's still a need there. And Pat, maybe you can tell us what a lot of people don't realize. We still do have a need to feed into that pipeline towards industrial jobs.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And you can confirm that to our viewers.
Just to throw a statistic out, 15% of the jobs out there, the job market, require a high school diploma or lower. 25% of the jobs out there require a 4-year college degree or higher. 65% of the jobs out there are skilled trades jobs. Mm-hmm. So that just shows the skill gap that we're lacking right now. So we're actively recruiting people. College isn't for everyone. I myself have a college education in law enforcement. Now I'm a business agent for the Carpenters Union. College isn't for everybody. Before there was a way of life, my parents wanted me to go to college also. I went to college. I see the benefit of it, but I think every job that I've had every life experience has led me to where I'm at right now. So college can be very important for some people, doctors, lawyers, but there's a lot of kids out there that are hands-on. They are hands-on. They work better, they learn better by actually doing the physical job. And one good thing about the union trades, is they come out debt-free.
And one of those, you're talking, a 65% gap in there. That's a huge range of jobs.
Yes, it is.
And whereas if somebody were to go to a higher education university or college or one of those things, they come out, aren't many of the trades done where you go into a skill training program and you come out with lots of college debt?
Correct, absolutely. And that's one thing about, I'll just give you an example as far as the Carpenters Union program. It's a 4-year apprenticeship program, but once they come out of our apprenticeship, they become a journeyman, but they have to take 18 more credit hours and they can get their AAS from like Kirkwood Community College. So there's an opportunity for higher learning even in the union trades, because there's a lot of people that are project managers, architects and stuff like that in the industry that we need to fill those gaps too. So.
And it's not just carpenters. I mean, it could be plumbers.
All trades.
And it depends on the trade. Correct. Is the level of skill required, isn't it?
Correct, correct.
Yeah, if I can jump in, since I taught at Kirkwood for over a quarter of a century, and since you mentioned Kirkwood, and I taught humanities, not in the trades. Kirkwood, we have 75 or 80 trade-type programs, and I very much believe in those programs, and more jobs require that kind of background. You have to have higher skills than you can get in high school and much more knowledge. And we tried to provide also for our students in all of the programs, humanities courses, writing courses, history courses, and so on, because of our belief that those are important for those people too, for a number of reasons. And I'd like to just sort of articulate those, because so much of the discussion today about higher education is, well, is it worth it, okay? And that's usually translated into dollars over a lifetime. You gave statistics, and that's not unimportant to people. I fully agree with that. But what we found is that over and over again, I would have students who were in the trades come to me 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 years later, and I would see them in a grocery store, and they would say, "Oh, I'm so glad I took that course with you. I didn't realize that such and such, but it's made a big difference in my life. You really got me to think about something that I wouldn't have thought about if I hadn't been in your course." And that brings me then to my concern that you talked about value added, but usually value added means money, okay? And I want to talk about the other values. Historically, when colleges and universities were set up, it was actually in the Middle Ages in Benedictine monasteries, where their goal was to enhance the truth, to seek the truth, and to enhance people's spiritual lives. In our modern period, they became Enlightenment or liberal universities, and the goals of liberal universities had to do, again, with seeking the truth in a whole variety of ways, with a whole variety of meanings, and also maximizing people's experience for personal growth. With the belief, John Stuart Mill was very clear about this in his book on liberty, that the better we do at creating people who are very, very good, clear thinkers, and people who can ask hard questions, and people who can absorb knowledge because they have strong language and so on, the better off we're going to be as a society, because we have much more informed and competent citizens. And so major purpose of university education, and I think high school and even lower than that, is citizenship. Second is for the furtherance of knowledge in the sciences and in every field of endeavor, because we can't have a society that continues on well into the future if it's based on falsehoods and ideologies that aren't backed with reality. And so while the focus that we have today is on, okay, as you say, well, your son or daughter, what are they going to get out of it? It's all about, when your son or daughter gets out of it, whatever they get out of it, how is that going to enhance our society? How is that going to further our communities and so on? So it's a both and, not an either or.
And if I could just add one small part to that, I agree with all of that. And the element of our mission that is most dear to me, in my case, the liberal arts mission, is that it traces its roots back to ancient Greece, and the idea of preparing a populace for self-governance and a participatory democracy. That freedom is not guaranteed. To maintain our freedom, at least in their model, the workers were skilled in a single technical area, and the rulers were broadly educated in the arts and sciences. Well, in a democracy, we are all theoretically rulers, and we will govern our democracy better if we have a broader sense of, and in today's world, that can mean technology, economics, political science, history, the arts, literature, on and on. And that, I'm not suggesting that that is a substitute for a technical hands-on skill. I'm a big believer that the whole person should be developed. But certainly when we have elected representatives making decisions for us, we want them to be well-informed.
Well, and just to follow up on that briefly, that's why it's so disturbing to me, and I'm sure to you as well, that we have so many people speaking out in our political life who are denying what's been discovered about science, about what's going on with the climate, what's happening with the life patterns on the earth, and so on. It's very, very disturbing, and it says to me, even though many of these people have been to colleges and universities, it didn't take.
Yeah.
Well, I might appreciate your feeling about the humanities, Bob, but if you have people that graduate out of college and all they do is sit there and think, I'm a clear thinker and this is what's going to put bread on my table, that's not the case. We need people that are hands-on, that pats people in the trades, that where the rubber meets the road, they get stuff done. You can't sit there. I mean, the insane asylum is full of clear thinkers. It's just that the way they think doesn't match society. So you need people that are practical and understand and contribute. And I think Pat would agree with me that these people are critical to the building blocks of every country
Absolutely
and society. I mean,
They are our future.
And
That's what within the trades. That's what like in the union life cycle.
Yeah.
You know, there's apprentices, there's a journeyman. It's a life cycle is what it is. We need to continue on. It's with everyday life.
And it doesn't matter whether it's a union
No.
or a small company or a medium-sized company or a big company. It's the little people that are the building blocks.
Absolutely.
And you start at the base, and everybody contributes.
And-
Same for you at the college.
And I'm not sure those things are mutually exclusive, especially in today's society. Before moving to Cedar Rapids, I was in a town whose specialty was tool and die. And machinists needed to be highly educated. They could not educate the workforce quickly enough because it was all programmed into computers before the metal was cut and shaped and fabricated. And they valued creativity, technical skill, problem solving, critical thinking, the sorts of things that those machinists needed every bit as much as people in fields that require a college education. So it was still education. And that is, most people want to have some agency in their lives. They don't want to perform the same repetitive task forever. The best people in the trades are those who can solve complex problems and have some mathematical ability and some communication skills in addition to their technical skills.
Absolutely.
Well, Pat, you've seen, and I think you could tell our viewers this morning that not only does it require more skills and maybe a little bit more training, but the tools that we use have increased with complexity.
Oh, absolutely have. From the old days when it was all hand tools, strictly done with hand tools, now to the hydraulics, to the gas-powered tools. It's such a required skill set that you have to have out on the job. And that's one thing about the apprenticeships or the trade schools is we demand that they learn this and be the best in the industry. You know, that's our future. I mean, I'm 48 years old. That's my future out there, training these guys, bringing the right kids in. That's the hardest part nowadays in the trades is finding the right kids that actually want to work with their hands. So it's afforded us to be a little more selective to find the right people for a right fit, you know, in the different trades.
And in fact, that's an attraction on somebody that would choose that career path trade-wise, that you come out and you're not saddled with a lot of debt like a doctor is, or like when I came out of law school and others, that you're saying, you know, 10, 15, 20 years, I'm not going to be making as much as I think I'm making because I'm having to pay a lot of debt back.
And that's the whole thing. A lot of times when the kids come out of college, they're not guaranteed a job. A lot of times there's not, you know, there's internships, and a lot of times people have a lead into a job, but they're not guaranteed anything. A lot of times, you know, but in the trades, we need people out there, you know, building our infrastructure, taking care of our roads. But you know, it's a necessity.
Well, I think right now, if you come out of college and you're a petroleum engineer, that you can kind of get a $60,000 to $80,000 salary. But if you come out of college and you're a social worker or an architect, you're going to be on the breadline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of the and so when our young viewers are looking at making these decisions, they have to not only say, okay, I want to go to college, but I got to pick a field that maybe I can find a job in it afterwards. Isn't that a consideration?
It's become more difficult than ever to know where jobs will be in what fields.
Sure.
New fields are emerging so quickly. And I always encourage students to follow their passions, to do what they love. It doesn't mean that they should ignore the idea of earning possibility, but so much of what is learned on the job in terms of the particular skills.
Absolutely.
I think it is important, though, to look at the economics of it. And of course, as president of a liberal arts college, I could go on at length, but I won't, about the other benefits, the intellectual and aesthetic and emotional and maturity benefits that some students experience in college. But just on the economic front, it is, I think the debt issue has been overstated in general in the media, and the cost issue has been as well, because certainly the price of college has risen greatly, but the actual cost after financial aid has risen at a much slower rate, actually slower than inflation for private colleges from the early 90s to the present. And the average debt now for a college graduate is the same as it was in the 1960s and the 1950s. It's about the price of a new car. So around $28,000 is the average debt. So that there are all sorts of stories out there about people with 6 figures of debt. And those either come from very high earning potential graduate programs, some of which are no longer as high earning potential, but medical school, for example. Or, and this has been the big issue and the reason that this has emerged recently, it's come from proprietary or for-profit institutions where students borrowed heavily in the hope of improving their earning power and then did not see that improvement in their earning power. And so they ended up defaulting on those loans.
And
so the real measure is not how much debt, but what is the default rate? And if the default rate is minuscule, then graduates are earning enough to make up for that.
And those for-profit institutions that you're talking about, if we were carry that over to the high-risk lenders who would put
Yes.
a lot of people highly into debt, and then
That's
they can
right.
never crawl out of it. They're much the same type, aren't they?
Exactly. It became bad enough that the federal government got involved.
Yeah. If I can maybe follow a little bit different thread in this, we haven't yet talked about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that's technology. You know, I created and taught a course for a lot of years on work, on the history of work and so on, especially in modern societies. And I think we're at a dramatic turning point. There have been several technological revolutions, you know, steam, automobiles, and so on, and computers were one. And in each of those, a lot of jobs were eliminated, but then a lot of jobs were created, okay? I think more and more people are realizing that in our current situation, more and more jobs are being eliminated as the technology expands, because the technology now is as smart as or smarter than we are, and it can be applied in many areas. And it isn't just in the trades where you've got technology taking over. Lawyers' offices used to have 10, 15 secretaries typing away. Now there's one, because you can do all that with a computer. Doctors are being replaced or aided at least in a lot of their work by technology. My son is an engineer. So much is done in that field using technology, and it's wonderful, but there are fewer and fewer jobs for more and more people. And I think we have to face up to what's going on. I would make several suggestions, and this relates to the cost of college and university. One of the reasons that University of Iowa, for example, or Kirkwood, the public institutions are costing more and more for the students is because state aid has fallen back, okay? So who does Kirkwood produce these workers for? For the trades, for these corporations and so on. Why shouldn't we get more money from them, who are getting the benefits of these educated people, into the public coffers so we can support the people going through, so they don't come out strapped, because they're the least capable of paying when they're starting up a job, starting up a life, trying to build a home and so on. I would say the same thing about healthcare. Major reason why a lot of employers only hire this person and make them work 60, 70 hours a week is because of all the health care benefits, okay? If health care was paid for in a different way, that is a public payer system, the employer then could hire 2 people to do those 60 hours worth of work, because there's not, you know, we have a shortage of work and we have a shortage of distribution of wealth. It seems to me those 2 things are really a part of this whole situation, especially now that so much of work is being done by better and better technologies.
Well, I think one of the points on the technology front is that technology is coming at us faster. You know, when they first invented the computer, it took a whole room full of things, metal and tubes and things, and now that whole room fits onto your phone for the computing equivalent.
On your wrist.
And the recent announcement of Apple. So there's a faster, it's like we're going faster and faster and more things are whizzing by.
Yes, it is.
And things are getting outdated.
Faster.
You know, the phone that I thought was really top notch, that I bought 18 months ago, is now considered out of date. You know, so technology impacts, it impacts your area, doesn't it?
It impacts every industry out there, I think. You know, there's just throw out the mail system. You know, look at how that's down in population. The mail system. Everybody's, you know, buying stuff offline now. I mean, it's not everything's shipped through the the U.S. mail. There's all kinds of other entities. Technology has made things easier, and it's made things a lot more difficult nowadays. That with the kids nowadays, finding the sense of I'm owed this, sense of entitlement. A lot of kids are like that these days. That people don't like to earn what they deserve, and that's a challenge for the trades out there these days. And all the trades make a darn good living. They're by no means are going to get rich, but they're going to be a productive asset to society.
And comfortable.
Absolutely. They're going to live a comfortable life. They're not going to have, I mean, like I said, they're not going to get rich, but they'll have a toy. They might have a motorcycle, a boat, or something, but they'll make the house payment, and they'll be a productive contributor to society.
Okay.
How do you deal with that issue of motivation?
Boy, it's tough. It's finding the right kids. It's recruiting. We're going into the schools. We're trying to reach out to the schools, the high schools, and trying to reach kids that are younger these days. Getting them interested, seeing what they want to do. It's you made a comment before. It's finding the right fit for an individual nowadays. Not everybody's fit to go to college, and not everybody's fit to be in the trades. It's just finding that individual fit for each person.
I didn't see the sense of entitlement so much as a sense of hopelessness. Okay, what's the point?
Right, yeah.
That job is going to disappear,
Sure.
Or there isn't one, even in a vocational school like Kirkwood.
Sure.
So I think that's again part of why I'm suggesting some systemic changes need to happen in order to create real possibilities for people. And I'm not at all against people having skin in the game. Okay,
Sure.
I don't think people ought to be getting free college. I'm sort of against Obama's free tuition for
We've just got about 2 minutes left, Bob,
Okay.
if you want to cut it real short and give me a final comment for today's show. What would you say to our viewers this morning about the education issues, quickly?
Well, I think it's very important that people realize the importance of education, whether it's for trades or for academic disciplines or technical disciplines in science and technology and so on. And also for citizenship. It's increasingly complex being a citizen, and people need to have really good education for that.
Pat?
Just to reiterate a little bit what Bob said, I mean, everybody should want to learn, have some type of higher learning, whether it be in the college setting, in the trade setting. That's our rights to want, to be able to learn, to be able to pursue, something better in life.
Dave, you got 30 seconds.
We've already said college may not be for everyone, but for those for whom it's the right fit, I think it has the potential to enrich their lives immeasurably and open the world to them.
And hopefully something they can enjoy, because they'll be more productive if they are in something they enjoy.
That's right.
Anyway, on behalf of the Interreligious Council for Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, thank you for joining us this morning, and please go out and make our community a better place to live and work.